Hello, my name is Aisha Jost, and this is my analysis of Arizona's language development. When looking at the definition, Arizona legislation defines ELs as children who don't speak English or whose native language is not English, and who are not currently able to perform ordinary classroom work in English because of this. And this is defined in Bill HB 2313. However, I think that a lot of states kind of agree on this sort of definition. It's pretty overall definition for ELs. But when specifically looking at Arizona's demographic and home language in schools, I really struggled to find any studies that dated within the past couple years. However, I did find one dating back to 2018 that said that Arizona had 82,211 ELL students, and that made up for 7.3% of their total enrollment. Um, but then, after digging a little bit more, found a study in 2020 that said that there were 505,584 Latino students and more than 75,000 English learners in AZ public schools at the time. So although those aren't the most current or up to date, those were the most current I could find in my research. Um, when looking at structured English immersion versus sheltered English instruction, I found that structured English immersion is a very intensive and English only approach. So the main goal is to accelerate English language acquisition, and specifically, it's within just the English subject matter. So while that does include the vocab, reading, writing, speaking, listening, and grammar, it's not including other subject matters. Um, and then sheltered English instruction is a more integrated approach to language acquisition, and it focuses on teaching content of other subject matters such as math or science or social studies, um, while supporting English language development. And with this approach, EL students are integrated with native English speakers, whereas with structured English immersion, um, it's classrooms of only English learners. For language development approach and the principles that come with that, principle one is the asset-based behavior and expectations. So this really focuses on supporting students in the fact that them being English language learners is actually an asset, in that it's not something that they should be ashamed of or embarrassed by, but that them having this other language that they know how to speak and being in the process of learning English is such an asset to them and can be a tool in their future careers. And that just supports agency and motivation because it shows them that it's a gift, it's a tool that they should really be proud of. Principle two, which is integrated instruction in disciplinary language and content, it focuses on the educator's responsibility to integrate language with content learning. So using content standards alongside those English language proficiency standards and giving opportunities for their ELs to meet the English language proficiency standards through other content areas. Principle three is targeted and explicit language instruction. So this is kind of the opposite of principle number two, and it is focusing on providing opportunities for EL students to practice their grade level content in the areas of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, those English specific content areas, rather than like incorporating the math and science into it. And then principle four is assessment, monitoring, and feedback. And this principle just enforces schools to utilize English language proficiency standards alongside like diagnostic tools and formative assessments to make sure that their students are progressing and that they're effectively supporting their students' language learning journey. And then student agency. This is just a term that means giving students leadership and control over their learning, which can look like providing them with choices and just overall autonomy over their experience in their education, and just giving them a say in how they learn. And this supports student learning because it affects their disposition. Students' attitudes will change when they're the ones making decisions, because if they're the ones making decisions, then there's really no excuse for them to not follow through with those. So this helps with motivation and just overall success with students, and they tend to enjoy their learning more. So for SEI models, There is the newcomer model. This one is for EL students who are new to the school system. So their integrated instruction refers to language instruction that is integrated with content. However, in terms of grouping newcomer EL students, they're grouped with other newcomer EL students. And this focuses on building social language. So because they're new to the whole school system and everything, they really do want to focus on at least building the foundation of having the social language skills to communicate before really focusing on like academic language and all of that. 50-50 dual language, it's an instructional model in which 50% of the teaching is in English and 50% of it is in the home language or partnering language of that student. And it focuses a lot more on biliteracy than just that explicit English literacy. Pull-out, this model provides a lot of flexibility because students remain in the mainstream classroom, but depending on scheduling, they are able to be pulled out for a minimum of 60 minutes of targeted instruction time. And within this model, core instruction really shouldn't be missed. So the pullouts are scheduled accordingly during independent work time or something like that. That's not core instruction that they're missing, but rather it's just a pullout group during a time that's available for them to be provided with extra instruction. And then the 2-hour SEI model, this model also provides flexibility because the students, again, they remain in those mainstream classrooms while being provided with pullout interventions. And this is just for a minimum of 120 minutes per day. It's kind of split up though because 60 minutes is targeted EL instruction and 60 is content integrated instruction. So incorporating the science, math, social studies content areas to become proficient in English. And then this is my summary. And these are my sources. Thank you.